We're preparing to live stream the webinar, it says.
Yeah, we're live.
Indeed.
Should we give it 1 extra minute before we kick it off? Kyle, your decision.
Can someone confirm the YouTube stream for us? It says it looks to be good to me, but.
Yep, all good. I can see it.
Okay. Okay,
good.
Thanks. We're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first Baseline as a Service demo day. Thanks to all of the folks who have joined to be on the panel today. It's kind of an all-star lineup. Thanks to Rachel Wolfson for sort of emceeing this thing. We're really excited. We Provide and Unibright are very excited to share what we've been working on this year and what we sort of intend to work on next year. Baseline, is really it's a pattern for just making it easy to share data. Getting the whole blockchain, the word blockchain out of the picture has been a struggle for enterprise and or for just for the blockchain industry in general. But enterprise they don't care about the word blockchain, and it's really all about making it so easy that it just vanishes into ubiquitous bliss, I would say. Stefan, Martin, you guys I consider you guys co-founders of Provide at this point. You guys are awesome. We're doing some really fun stuff. And would you guys like to add to any of those opening thoughts?
Yeah, thanks, Kyle. Thanks for the humble words. Martin here, co-founder and CEO of Unibright. Pleasure to be here, excited to be here, and I'm very much looking forward to talk about where the Baseline protocol and its specification stands today, as we have been working on it for about a year, and of course about all the products and services built upon it, all the reference implementations, and how we get it to the customer side of things and how we can drive enterprise blockchain adoption in general.
Yeah, Stefan here, CTO and co-founder of Unibright and now also of Provide, which is a perfect example of integration on a different level, because Baseline is all about integration, integrating IT systems, integrating business processes, but also integrating an ecosystem around a new technology or a new pattern or a new protocol. So it has been a very exciting 2020 in terms of all those that deal with blockchain integration, like Unibright. And yeah, happy to be here, happy to have such a great audience, and excited for all things to come. Thanks. Rachel.
Great, wonderful. Well, thank you all for having me here to moderate this amazing event. So thank you, Stefan, Kyle, Martin, Unibright, and Provide. This is a really wonderful opportunity. So as you all may know, I'm a blockchain journalist. I've been covering the enterprise blockchain space for over 3 years now, and I'm just fascinated by Baseline and Baseline as a service and all of that. So I'm really happy to be here and to see the progress being made with this team. So yeah, it's a pleasure. I'm excited.
Perfect. And just to give some context on the format, we published a landing page around our demo day that, of course, you all have seen. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to join. And the idea was to really break down the complexity of establishing a new protocol and offering products around it and making clients use or helping clients using it. So there's a lot of pre-produced content, educational, and also on the tech stacks that we're offering, on the use cases, on the integration side of things. And in this format here, in the live format, we want to discuss different topics and different ecosystems as well. So it's not purely developer-oriented, but also developer-oriented in some parts. And of course, we want to also show how adoption could look like for enterprise in the next months and years.
Can you guys see my screen? I just want to, show this momentarily.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So this is the makings of the Kona bottling harbor. It is based on our shuttle product. We have there are, as Stefan mentioned, there's a lot of video that we produced that really walks through. We called it demo day, but it's really like demos day. There are a lot of videos in there. We will be sharing the YouTube playlist right after the event. But I just want to tease this out just momentarily at least. So Kona, the Kona bottling harbor is a really awesome project. With shuttle, you can deploy new baseline work groups very easily on any network. And so that's what we've done here. You target a network and you have a work group. And so this really represents what lives in the on-chain registry. Or if you're using DIDs, this would just be the collection of DIDs that are associated with your work group. You can invite additional organizations, so like United Bottlers or Bottling, and at that point in the work, every organization gets this stack. This stack represents version 1 of our shuttle baseline as a service offering, and you see this. You see some dependencies. The core provide stack, and then the pointy end of the spear, the provided byte container, which connects to SAP Dynamics 365 by way of the Azure Service Bus, and then the Salesforce, DOMS connector, and he'll talk about that later on. But any system of record that we want to integrate into baseline can just be added into this provided byte proxy, and it just adds out of the box support for baseline to our stack. And then the Nethermind Ethereum client, very just premium client, very excited about it. Shout out to Tomasz for that one. So you can sort of see here like where things are headed, in terms of what we're working on with Andre at Kona, and there's more. There's a lot more content on the YouTube that we'll share. Thanks for taking a look at all that, and we look forward to working with all of you.
Okay, perhaps one generic remark on the context of all the content that we show. It's a little bit of two parts of a story, because on a technical protocol that is established to connect enterprise IT systems, there are a lot of technical details. And of course, when we show our products around it, we also want to show how sound they are, and we go into details here and there in the technical stuff. But in the end, the mission is to really abstract from that complexity and to make a user experience for enterprise usage of baseline protocol and products, to help enterprise clients that they do not have to deal with these technical details. So always keep in mind, the deeper we get today in the talks when it comes to proofs on the blockchain, or Ethereum clients, or integration with SAP on whatever standard, always keep in mind that everything we are building needs to deal with all these details. But on the other hand, we are building products that try to abstract from the complexity of it. So that's our mission, that's our tasks. Not always easy to have it in an educational style as well for everybody to understand, but we'll give our very, very best to watch our wording here. Yeah. All right.
That's a good disclaimer right after my demo. I appreciate that. It's fair though. Okay.
Great. So are we ready to kick off the first panel?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, guys. Wonderful. So we will begin the demo day with a panel entitled Enterprise Blockchain in General, where we're just talking about enterprise blockchain and going through some of the basics there. I'm going to go ahead and let the panelists introduce themselves. So let's get started with the panelists saying hello very briefly for about 30 seconds or less. panelists?
We have to call them one by one. Dom, please start.
Oh, okay.
Sure. My name is Dominic Stahl. I'm one of the founders of dApps Inc. And we have a product on the Salesforce App Exchange called dApp Suite. It's one of the first Ethereum blockchain platforms as a service for the Salesforce ecosystem. And we've been working closely with the Baseline community, Provide, and Unibright and the Unibright stack, Provide and Unibright stack to essentially bring Baseline into the Salesforce ecosystem. So happy to be on the panel today and look forward to seeing all the demos. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. Is John Wolpert here? Is he supposed to be on this panel?
Not joined yet. So Daniel,
okay.
perhaps you can take it from here.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Stefan, and everybody else. Happy to be here. I'm Dan Norkin, one of the co-founders here at Envision Blockchain. We've been doing blockchain system integration for going on now about 3 years. Happy to be part of the Baseline community, and you probably saw some of our demos with the Dynamics 365 environment, and that's part of the Envision blockchain connector and the Azure Service Bus middleware that connects to the Provide stack that Kyle was just referring to. Happy to be here and really looking forward to the demo day. Thanks.
Awesome.
Thank
And
you.
then Kyle, Martin, and Stefan, you guys are all panelists, right? On this panel?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so are all of the panelists here then? Are we ready to
Yes.
start? Okay, perfect.
Hi everyone, I'm Anaïs Frank. I'm the founder and principal consultant at Conscientious Consulting. So we are an operations consulting practice and we specialize in the delivery of large-scale transformation programs. I'm also a member of the Baseline Protocol Technical Steering Committee, and I lead the Standard and Specification Working Group. I'm really happy to be here today, and I'm looking forward to Demo Day.
Thanks.
Great. Stefan.
There's another Stefan.
Yeah. I'm not
Hi,
calling myself.
Stefan Rauch here. I'm co-founder of ConCircle based in Austria and Germany and Bratislava, Slovakia. So why we are here, we were brought in by Unibright to build up the integration to SAP. And it perfectly fits to our mission, what we did the last years, building up integrated vertical processes in companies. We worked on entities and now we work cross-company. It's really a pleasure to be here. And yeah, looking forward hearing all the stuff, what you present. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Stefan. Thomas, do you want to continue?
Hi everyone. This is Thomas from Minimind. We've had a pleasure for the last few months to work closely with Provide and Unibright on delivery of the full stack service as a service solution for baselining. So proud to be at this hidden core of the system. So because Provide and Unibright do such a great service, you rarely will have to think about Minimind being there, but that's where we are. So Minimind for Ethereum connection, and happy to be here today and looking forward to hear all the great content.
Thanks, Thomas. Myron, perhaps?
Hello, everyone. Very nice to be here. I'm a computer science student at TU Berlin, and with a passion for distributed systems and blockchain, and also involved in the Fraunhofer IPK demonstrator with Provide and Unibright as a working student. And yeah, very happy to be here. It's going to be a great session.
Thanks, Myron. Ognian?
Hi everyone, thanks Stefan. So I'm Kurti Ognian, I'm CTO of Belgrade-based startup Between. We're building a factoring platform, online factoring platform, FinSpot, and we're really big on Baseline because it actually solves quite a lot of domain issues that are experienced in this field. So I'm really happy to see the demos and to see how it all works together.
You know a thing or two about that Provide a Bright proxy.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Uros, your turn. Your keyword.
Yeah, hello guys. I'm Uroš. I'm a developer based in Serbia, Belgrade. So I'm currently working on a proxy that Kyle mentions before, where all the things will come in and out of it. So glad to be here, glad to see you all, and yeah, let's enjoy the demo.
Cool. Andre and John, perhaps we can, of course, you can introduce yourself for all those that do not know you, and perhaps kick it off with the Kona panel, because if I'm right, Andre, your time is a little bit limited today. So not that we, of course, miss you. Please, please introduce yourself shortly.
Hey, everybody. I hope you can see me and hear me well. My name is Andrei Semenov. I'm a part of the Kona Services Organization, Director of Innovation for Supply Chain and Operations. And I've been working on our blockchain projects since the very inception in our organization, working with the bottlers, kind of spreading the word about the blockchain technology, the networks, and the baseline protocol specifically. So happy to be here and happy to be on the panel, I believe right after this one. And we can discuss what we're building together with Kyle and Martin and Stefan.
I think we're going to actually do the Kona panel first.
It's a great start because then we have a use case perhaps that we can talk about and all participants can relate. But we want John to introduce himself, but now he's leaving his chair. Too bad.
Oh, there he is. Hey, John.
Let's do that later.
Hi, everyone. I've got a screaming 7-year-old in the background, so we'll refrain.
Good to see you.
Hi, John.
Hi.
Okay, so are we kicking it off with the Kona panel then?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's do it. Andre, are you ready?
Always ready.
Okay. Perfect.
If you're not, I would say if you're not on the panel, maybe mute your video just momentarily until you're on the panel, please.
Yeah, thank you. Great. So the title of this panel is What to Do from a Customer's Perspective to Adopt a New Technology like Blockchain. Obviously, the panel is with Andre of Kona, Coke One North America, for those of you who don't know the acronym there. So first question, Andre, is with Kona being a very innovative company, what has the history been like with enterprise blockchain and adoption there?
Yeah, so before I answer the question, Rachel, I just want to quickly introduce, so from a Kona perspective, we're an IT services organization providing innovative IT services to our bottlers in North America. So currently 12 bottlers in North America and Canada. So core offering is we're providing the ERP system based on SAP for the bottlers to run their business end-to-end from manufacturing to distribution. And the innovation part of Kona is trying to find the gaps or white spaces in the processes or in the solutions that we have and we're offering, and provide some innovative solutions for them to either grow their business or make their business efficient. And the blockchain is really one of the areas where we started our journey about 2.5 years ago, looking into how we can improve some of the processes or we can streamline these processes that have been an issue for quite a long time and we didn't have a good solve. And if you think about how the Coca-Cola bottlers operate, these are the independent bottling companies. So even though they're under the same logo of the company, they are still a separate legal entities. And we work with the 12 largest ones, but in the US and Canada, it's just over 60, close to 70 big, small, and medium-sized bottlers. So what we saw, there's a lot of friction in the supply chain, specifically when the bottlers are playing the role of a supplier and a buyer to each other, when one bottler produces and sells the products to another. And there are a lot of rules on top of these supply chain processes that actually drive who can sell which product to who can produce what. So there's a lot of business rules in place that different bottlers manage differently and share their demands and orders through either emails or spreadsheets or with whatever you can imagine how you can do it without an integration. Now with blockchain, so a great opportunity to provide this trusted layer between the bottlers, and even though the Coke bottlers, we still treat it as a semi-trusted environment. And we started with implementing a private permission network based on Hyperledger Fabric, just because I would say from the maturity perspective, 2.5 years ago, it was the way to go. And we are now running the operations of our use case for about 15, 16 months. We're extending the network to other bottlers. And as we were rolling out the private permission network, I've been always following the work that this group was doing, and even before the baseline, the EY work and the Nightfall release. It really was interesting to see what would be that point where we could say that now really instead of everybody building their own wall gardens and silos in the private blockchains, when would enterprises be comfortable and trying out applications building directly on the public mainnets that will truly allow them to connect to anybody, any third parties that they're operating with, not just within the Coca-Cola bottling network.
Right, definitely. So what I'm curious to know is, because obviously you started with Hyperledger Fabric, from a business and technical perspective, what is key for Kona when adding a new technology and starting, integrating blockchain? Like, what is key? What are the things that you want to accomplish there?
Yeah, I think what we do, we start with a business case and with the business value of the new technology. We're not buying new tools just to play with new tools or new technologies. So that's why we engage our bottling community, understand the issues, the problem, and the opportunity we can solve. For example, by removing the frequency in the supply chain transactions, what would be the revenue or potential return back to the bottlers in the efficiencies? So we start with that, and then we model that. Basically, the idea is that to have different bottlers connected through this trusted layer, and we build the use case for that. And from the business perspective, what's important is that it has value, it's not costly, that it's in the long run, it's a technology that they can trust in and then invest into. So it's not a throwaway work, that is secure, it's private. It can allow them to operate as they build their applications on the technology they know, like the databases and the cloud storages. Now, from the technical perspective, what we wanted to make sure as we were writing together with the business, we wanted to make sure that we understand how to build the blockchain applications in a distributed way. We understand how to build the integrations into the ERP system. So we've been solving all these questions that we're now covering with Kyle and Unibright and provide what to do with the baseline. So we didn't want to build just a blockchain network of a few nodes and then prove out some transactions being sent through within the UI, simplified UI. We want to make sure that the ERPs with their complex logic are plugged into the blockchain network at the time when it's needed and provide this additional layer of trust and information automation to the bottlers and optimize their processes. And as we're looking at Hyperledger, definitely we moved with the private permission in the first place because of the privacy concerns, sharing the private data on the public mainnet. But now with the ZKP and the baseline approach, I think it's becoming feasible to do on the public mainnets as well. Right. So I would say everything that baseline community is discussing, it's all real, and it's the real questions that we need to solve, the real problems we need to solve. And we're not picking blockchain just because it's a buzzword and we need to build something on it, because we feel there is a value of bringing this trust in this semi-trusted environments of businesses working together, and the blockchain really fits.
Right, definitely. Go
Just
ahead.
Just shortly, if I may add, I mean, this is something that we see in a lot of talks around baseline. That with baseline, you can bring the former buzzword blockchain more to a user to where it actually brings benefits. So we also saw that on working on the Kona case, that a lot of challenges are pure integration challenges that have been there before, but now finally you don't have a new technology like blockchain that you have to integrate on top just as a just as an additional challenge, but more as an argument to make the actual integration easier. So this is already a change in perception of how blockchain as a technology can play a part within a integration process, and this is can be perfectly seen in the Kona case as an example.
Right. Andre, do you want to elaborate a little bit on that point? Like, how do you manage to connect your already existing IT systems to the blockchain world?
Yeah. So this was our number one requirement, that as we build a POC on Fabric, or now using the baseline, we want to make sure that we don't have to change the way the business works today. We only want to improve and automate, but not necessarily add something that will not make sense to the end users. So with that, we have to look into different types of integrations. And when working with SAP, there are different ways of doing integration, either using your standard EDI, iDoc integration, using your process interface or PI, or you use some cloud PI services. You can use some of the services that will allow you to expose your APIs to receive the data, like, for example, MuleSoft. But I think the main goal here, or the main idea, was we have to figure out ourselves, right? We have to figure out what business logic you put in these integration layers, what are the triggers, how you're exchanging the data, how you're retrying in case of failure. All these technical issues became real, and we had to solve them, and we have a supportable solution that's working right now. And as we look into integration with the baseline as a service, I think what's really important there is there's not only a mainnet or just a blockchain component there, but that the companies like Unibright and Provide invest in time into come up with a solution, a proposal. What would be a standard for you to integrate to ERP or Dynamics, or gentleman on the call representing Salesforce. So this is very exciting that as someone is trying to solve one issue with one integration and doing it really well and sharing with the community, at the same time, someone else is doing with another ERP system, or maybe not an ERP system, but a small homegrown system that would just consume some of the open APIs. And as a community, we're building this integration to the baseline as a service, and the baseline as a service provides us then this bus into the network to communicate with each other.
Yeah, that provided by proxy and the mission to synchronize everything.
Andre, are you able to talk about some of the progress that's been made so far, and maybe like future challenges moving forward, just to give the listeners an idea?
Yeah, I think we started working together back in August. It's an innovation approach, right? We're making 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. We're trying to confirm some of the requirements, redesign the flows. And I think right now we're really in a technical feasibility analysis mode, and we're hoping that the technical components that we're now working on are wrapping up with the development. And Kyle quickly demoed a shuttle version of Kona, hopefully that in Q1 of 2021 we're going to be able to at least start doing some internal demos and see how this can all work together, and start sending the documents and baselining the documents from our system to an outside system, purely from the development innovation perspective. Now I see, and we were discussing the challenges, in order for us to move forward from a proof of concept environment to a pilot, you need to make sure that it's going to be an operational stack, that it has all the components that will allow us to run it and support, and bring it to the support that we have today for all other applications, meaning that it's you have some failure notifications, failure retries, you have very clear rules and workflows configured, and that we have documentation in place. I think just all the kind of generic steps that you have to do as you bring any new development, it's being a cloud web application, or it could be an ERP, on-premise ERP. So all the components, they have to be met to some degree. So I think as we prove out that technically it's feasible to do, the next step would be how we Now make it and wrap it up so it's operational and supportable. We don't have any gaps in between the different components.
Right. I mean, I just think it's notable that such a large organization like Kona is, testing this right now. And hopefully what I would like to see is other enterprises to start doing the same. And I think Kona is going to really be leading the way. So I don't know if you want to comment on that, but I think that this is really a great start to enterprise blockchain adoption here. And it's extremely notable what Kona is doing.
Yeah, I agree, Rachel. Definitely, we want to show by example, but we don't really want to maybe present something that is not done yet. That's why we're taking a lot of time and effort to make sure that we can actually demo and then maybe prove out that it's working and it's potentially bringing the value back.
Exactly. Yeah. And all of that makes sense, obviously. We've only got a few minutes left, Andre. Do you want to add any additional comments before we head over to the next panel?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you. I think, me and Kona being the lucky ones to partner with Unibright and provide working on this project. Really exciting what we can develop and build the standards, build the processes, provide our feedback and contribute to the community. And I'm happy to be a part of the community as well, because the blockchain is a technology where you cannot be successful on your own. You have to work with the community, with the developers, with other businesses, share the knowledge and agree on this middle ground where we're comfortable sharing the data and then using technology that will help solve us business issues. So thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Andre.
We're looking forward to next year.
Yeah, exciting times. And I also want to mention that Andre is some kind of a dream role model for clients, because I think it's always about, referring to what I said earlier, Kona is willing to dive into all the complexities of establishing a new way of integration. And in later stages of baseline and in the products around it, of course, we want to hide away all this complexity. So it's really good to have real world enterprises stepping in from the very beginning, and we can't thank enough for that. Great job.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Great. Wonderful. So let's see, are we ready to go to the enterprise blockchain in general panel? Is that what's up next?
I was thinking perhaps we can just take a small step into the integration panel first, also because some of the participants have to leave earlier, and this would also be a great chance to include John perhaps in the discussion, because we can take it from the learnings that we just had from a real world use case and take the integration perspective from there.
Great. Sounds good, Stefan. Thank you. So the next panel is how to integrate a new technology like blockchain into existing ecosystems and how are users affected. So I will have the panelists just say hello. I think we've got John on this panel. John, Stefan, Daniel Norkin, and Dominic Steele.
And Stefan Rauch.
And Stefan Rauch. Hi.
Okay. Great. So I'm just going to jump right into the questions because we've already introduced ourselves. So what does integration mean? It seems to be a term that can be used in many ways. So let's just talk about what it means in terms of this context, and anyone can jump in and just start.
Yeah. I think it was a great example to hear Andre and at the Kona use case, and he just mentioned at least one key finding, and this is that there is already so many IT systems and business processes in place apart from blockchain, that when you look at enterprise blockchain, normally we have to start with the already existing. So there's 99% of systems that don't know any blockchain. And then you have to think about how do we get those systems technically connected or integrated to the blockchain approaches we have, or how can business processes evolve into this new technology. So there's always this approach of looking at what do we already have and how do we get it connected to the thing we want to build. And this is often forgotten, I think.
Yeah, and having John on the call, I want to explicitly mention that the transition from private networks to something like a public Magic Bus mainnet is really exciting, and also interesting that all the contacts we are currently talking to, most of them, or 99%, have like Hyperledger private networks, POCs in place, and now are migrating or extending. So, John, I would also like to hear your opinion on the current state of private networks in the role of baseline, or in something like the Kona case.
Private networks in the role of the Kona case. I mean, that's in terms of staging. I think that's Stefan. I think that's where you're going.
Yeah, just taking the Kona case as one example from extending an existing private network-based use case.
If I think in the blockchain world, we've gotten so wrapped around the new stuff that we've forgotten the old sometimes. I just think of this stuff as state machines, and I cut my teeth. I was so excited back in the early 80s about databases, right? And so, to me, private networks are just shared databases, and those are state machines, and baselining can work on any kind of state machine. So those are fine if you happen to want to use a shared database. For my part, I think most in production, most people ultimately are going to be saying, well, gosh, we do like some shared databases for a few things, but really not as much as I thought back in 2015, right? That we thought everybody's going to use these shared databases. No, not so much, because people start to sober up and realize that you don't really want all your data on a shared threat surface with lots of other companies, admins in there who can screw things up. No, you really don't want that. What you want, in fact, I don't think people really want transparency. I think that they think transparency is a solution to their actual problem. And their actual problem is they don't want to be surprised. They don't want a supply chain pile up somewhere 3 steps out from where from their awareness zone to cause them to have an order that doesn't show up. They don't want to be surprised. They don't want things going badly for them. They want to worry less and save time. And they think transparency is going to do that for them. Transparency doesn't do that, and it creates new problems, right? I mean, transparency doesn't mean you're actually paying attention, and it doesn't mean that those pileups aren't going to happen. And now you've got this, as I've often said, a digital nudist colony that you have to worry about all sorts of other things about, right? Unless you really do believe, and some people do, that the sneakers movie was correct, and there should be no secrets at all, and everybody should know everything about everyone else all the time. If that's where you're at, then sure, yeah, put it all in a blockchain. If you can find one that's fast enough and scalable enough and can handle the throughput, which you can't, because no blockchain will ever be able to handle all the reads and writes of everybody's backend. Right. So there's my diatribe about that. But I think that if you already are on something like Fabric, yeah, sure, why not? Then you need to work with things like SAP and Oracle and everything else, and Dynamics. Baselining is a good way to do it.
Yeah.
Great, definitely. Let's see, does anybody else want to comment on integrating off-chain and blockchain solutions together, and maybe technical issues that might arise that we should know about? Or John, do you want to elaborate?
I grandstanded a little too long there, so I'll let somebody else go.
I think we can.
I would comment on that, if it's okay. Okay. I think if I think of a typical SAP customer, I think main issues there, if you say you have off-chain and on blockchain processes, often they see each other as black boxes. This is what I face at my customers there. And so the transparency between off-chain and blockchain processes, it's not there. So we do have solutions on the on-premise or cloud systems of SAP to give some insights and some transparency on the business processes within one SAP system or within one tenant of a cloud system. But having this now, these tools of the baseline protocol to link all the processes of off-chain and blockchain together, so it just gives more transparency to all the process partners. And I think this is a main step forward to link those off-chain and blockchain processes together. And so it seems that also this baseline integration, it's an easy way. We have one common domain model to link all the business documents. So yeah, this is my comment on that.
Yeah. If I may, just to follow up on that, Stefan, that was well said. But by the way, don't ask me to just pronounce your last name, because when I was living in Germany, they used to call me Lynx, because if I wanted somebody to go next, I was so bad with the German R that I had to say Lynx 3 times.
You actually told me that before, John.
Yeah. Well, I'm old, so I tell the same jokes over and over. It's a thing.
Well, I mean, the people.
Once you get your AARP card, then you get to tell you the same joke over and over again, and people have to laugh. I think that where baselining is particularly useful, I don't have a lot to say, as people know, about tokens and tokenomics and stuff like that. But when you want to tokenize something like an invoice, right, you want to turn it into a digital asset that you're moving around out in the clear, right? That's great. I mean, I think companies like Centrifuge are doing that, and I think it's really cool. And you can eliminate that scary out in the open thing by tranching those up, right? You say, hey, here's this month's tranche of invoices. It's priced, it's rated, buy a slice of it. There's no real, Costco doesn't discover what Walmart's invoices are from that. So you're not losing information. It's a pretty good way of doing it. And you're generating this big market. So you have a reason to tokenize, but baseline isn't tokenizing, right? The real key to me of baselining there is I can baseline the event, the work step that goes from a database record like that invoice to whatever tokenization scheme is running. And I can know then that the attributes of that token are verifiably identical to the attributes of the database record that it came from originally. And there's utility in that. I mean, it's boring, but there's usefulness in that. I think that for me clarifies the difference between baselining and cryptocurrency and token economy.
Yeah, that's a very vital point to emphasize on. And just to go back to the Kona case a bit, and looking at the transition from going from a private network, from a Hyperledger network, to the approach using baselining and using a public mainnet, I think we can see that it adds value in terms of for smaller players or smaller suppliers that don't have so much IT resources. It's much easier for them to just jump on a public blockchain that is already available. So having a mainnet I like the term of having it as a middleware that you can just jump on. It's much, let's say, easier from a setup perspective than joining a private network, and especially joining private networks over and over if you have multiple use cases, business cases. So that's, I think, a very valuable thing to see in the whole baseline approach.
And there's another interesting thing happening with baseline, and this panel is just perfect to elaborate on this. I mean, in other integration projects, there's often a lead, say, from an SAP system or a dynamic system, and most of the partners just want the other partners to adapt to exactly their standards and their models. But what we see here in not only in baseline, but also in Provide and Unibright and the demos that we show, that at this very early stage, we already managed to have a focus on SAP integration, like Stefan just introduced, but also Dom and Dan can perhaps talk a little bit from perspective of other ERPs. And our discussions and our workshops were always like, how can we baseline something, and not how can I force you to use my standards or my systems because my client is SAP, so let's just take SAP. No, it's just about finding a common integration standard that all those systems can connect to, and that's what I really think is important. Dom, perhaps you can say a little bit how this looks from the Salesforce perspective.
Absolutely. So yeah, I think using Ethereum as a common frame of reference and as a middleware from Salesforce, one advantage is the neutrality. So you don't have to set up networks, and you don't have to worry about how am I going to set up this network? How am I going to join this network? Or, who owns this ultimate network? You can keep your system of record. You can have the common frame of reference, and you don't have to spend, months and months and months of doing integrations. And I think the $240 billion a year spent on system integrators coming in and setting up point-to-point types of integrations. So there's a massive shift, not only from the going from like private business networks to kind of a public common frame of reference, but also from an economic standpoint, you have a lower upfront cost. You can use your system of record where your data and your processes already are, and you can start to connect with other companies that are also using the baseline protocol. So I think there's a massive upside to using this this implementation, this technique.
Yeah, and just to jump in here and to add kind of a different perspective where it's not a silver bullet where one system is going to work well for every company, and we all kind of take for granted where we are today, and we use the term decentralized operations pretty often. But in reality, for the longest time, businesses have been operating in that way, right? We've been operating with business partners across the world, and sending messages how we can, whether they're through email or they're through fax or anything like that. It's just that there's been, with every leap of innovation, there's always been a stumbling block. So at first, there's a need to be able to kind of take all these different business units, if you will, and centralize all the data so that the company could see. And then how are you going to then interact with your business partners through that centralization sets of processes, and that could lead to some faults. So that's kind of where the baseline protocol has really helped out in the terms of the innovation, where decentralized operations is now truly in a decentralized operation form. Super excited about what's going on here.
Yeah, I think Unibright, DApps, and Envision are sort of the trifecta for Provide in our sort of our go-to-market here with Baseline as a Service. Really grateful for you guys and all you've contributed.
Great, wonderful. Are we ready to move on to the next panel? I think that was we've got some pretty good responses there.
Exactly. Perhaps I just want to give one real life example of how it's working in the baseline environment again, because Daniel and his team and the Unibright team and also Provide at the very early stage of baseline, we were working on a integration demo of Dynamics and SAP. And it was really great to see that until the last on the last day before we decided how to publish a video and a paper around it, we still were able to discuss, okay, who will play the buyer role in this demo and who will play the supplier role. And we were especially because Daniel and team were well prepared, we were able just to switch perspectives on the very last second of before publishing anything. And this would not have been possible if we just forced each other to use just the other standard. So if we move on that way and also do not make it too much of an ERP vendor story, that's very important to me personally, because although Unibright is a German company, we are very SAP related, obviously, but this whole integration topic only makes sense if we not make it an ERP vendor story, but rather a standard story on how to bring these ERPs together. And yeah, we had some great examples already on that, and we'll have more next year to come.
Yeah, Stefan, I think I want to comment on that because it's really important. In our project, as I said, we have a big history in integrating manufacturing systems and also machines. So we face in nearly every project that we have to link any system together, and cross-company, it was just a missing link. And now with this baseline approach, it's absolutely a powerful tool, because within one stack or within one entity, you always have this topic to integrate your machines, your manufacturing systems. And we have nearly the same approach for one company and the vertical integration there. And Baseline is really perfect now to integrate those processes horizontal. So cross-company, perfect fit for us. And yeah, thanks a lot. And also want to comment on I'm really happy working together with other vendors, because I don't want to focus too much on SAP and all the stuff. It's just any system, and this is a real big and great step forward. Thanks.
Well said.
Happy to have you, for sure.
Thanks, Stefan. Okay, what panel should we head to next? Should we do the fireside chat with Anais, or did we want to talk about enterprise blockchain basics?
Yeah, I think we could do the standards talk.
Okay, sounds good. So right now we're going to do a fireside chat with Anais Offranc. She's going to be speaking about standards. So Anais, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Great, wonderful. I'm just going to let you start by giving a little bit of an introduction here, and then we can take it from there.
Yes, well, I introduced myself earlier, so if you want, I can jump straight into the baseline protocol for the audience. So everybody has been mentioning the baseline protocol, but I think it's very important to understand under what framework it is currently being developed. So and why. So the protocol is currently being developed under the Oasis open framework, and there are really three benefits for this. So one, the Oasis offers a recognized path to standardization. So the work that we are all doing now can be approved for reference in global policy and procurement. And this is really crucial and essential for private and public sector adoption. Two, the code is open source, not only the baseline core code, but also the various reference implementations available under the baseline repository. And I really should say that on this last point, the Provide team has been exceptional. They have been contributing, I cannot even start to explain, but I think it's fair to say that the release of the V01 back in August, a great milestone for the baseline protocol initiative, was in fact the result of their commitment and dedication to the project. So I'm really thankful to the Provide team for this. And this really demonstrates the third benefit of the Oasis open framework, which is that so many talented individuals are able to come together, showing leadership and delivering quality work. And this is thanks to all of those efforts that we were able, actually it was announced this week, to win the Oasis 2020 Open Cup Award for Best New Initiative.
Right. I'm just going to take it a step back because could you explain what the Oasis open framework is just for people that may not be familiar with it?
Yes, sure. So Oasis is a non-profit organization who really advocates for open standard. So, and they offer the benefits, for example, they allow different projects to operate now under open source, but they also provide a way to standardize, to be able to, how can I say, to be recognized, not as a de facto standard, because some private company will launch a product or will launch a project and they will force adoption. And that's what we are talking about. Or I'm SAP, I'm doing things such a way. But we are really advocating, they are really advocating open standardization. So it's not operated or controlled by one given organization.
Right. And I mean, we can talk about how important open source is. I mean, you just kind of touched on it, but did you want to elaborate on that point, like how important open source is for the blockchain community in general and for this specific instance?
Yes, when it comes to innovation, I think it's very critical for the public and for as much people as possible to have access to what is being developed. The baseline protocol wouldn't be where it is today if it wasn't an open source project. I myself, and I'm sure Kyle and the Unibright team would not have been able to contribute and to also collaborate with other partners that they may have never met if it wasn't for the open source nature of this project. So I think in terms of tapping into a large pool of talent, but also under the Oasis, having this seal of validity and this recognition for the way it has been done from a quality point of view, it's very important.
Right, definitely.
If I can add there, Rachel,
Sure.
Anais said it well, but should probably also mention that they're behind SGML, SAML, MQTT, AMQP. Oasis has been around for decades, and it's like, so Linux Foundation, Apache, Oasis, and then of course those things. Oasis feeds into the ITU, the ISO, W3C, W3, IEEE, etc.
Yep, and we can also add that they do have advisory rules for the EU, for example, and various governments. So operating under their umbrella is a great benefit to the baseline protocol.
Right, definitely. Having that quality stamp of approval, like you said, is extremely important. Can you elaborate just on how that kind of adds legitimacy and value here?
Yes, so as we are working on developing the baseline specifications, they will only become standards once they will be going through a very rigorous editorial process. So there is review and approval, and only then the baseline protocol specifications that we are currently working on will be official published standard.
Is that, how has that process been so far? Are you able to talk about that?
Yes, we have made good progress. And as I said, what triggered the specification work was really the release of the V0.1 in August. And we have been mostly focusing on defining the core components and the core requirements for those components. So the approach was to abstract on the work that Kyle, Thomas, and other collaborators have produced, and which is available open source again, and try to define what is it we should focus on. So right now there are two specifications, the baseline core specifications and the baseline API specification that we are developing. Yeah.
Wonderful.
And just, if I may add, it's not, it's very important, so it can't be emphasized enough, that when building standards, of course, you need all the input from let's say the theoretical work, that's the underlying basis of whatever technology or even protocol, but you also need the feedback and to loop back with the experiences with real world projects made. So of course, it's a little bit funny that when you take a look at the Provide Unibright stack, we're heading towards production ready software, implementing a protocol that is yet in the very beginning of setting the standards, but we have to do it that way in my personal opinion, because then the standards is of course more useful if you can also have as an input the first experiences of reference implementations or even first production environment solutions that are all then going into that standard to make it more meaningful to everyone who wants to use it.
Well, of course, and I would say, how amazing is it to work with Kona and Fraunhofer, having some of these perspectives and willingness from Kona, to roll their sleeves up with us, and it's great. So I second what you said.
Yes, and I would definitely say that we have been focusing on working mostly on the API and data model specification, and the work that Kyle, Daniel, Thomas, Andreas, John, and all others have been, that was really the starting point. And I'm hopeful that we'll be able to complete a first draft of this API specification in the next 6 to 9 months, let's say, and we'll be able to share, and welcome feedback from the community.
If I may add one last thing here, if I can, one of the things that the standards community, the body will be going into, and this happened with Hyperledger Fabric as well, is how people refer, names matter, right? So I'm down with baseline as a service, certainly on an informal basis. I do want to say that baselining and baseline protocol are good standard ways of referring to this, right? Because we almost did too good of a job with the name baseline, right? It's just good name, right? But it also gives people the impression sometimes that it's a coin or a token or a product or a platform. And that invites resistance, right? And it also makes people think, oh, well, how are you going to join my thing? We're like, well, we don't join things. We're just a technique for things, right? And so it's good to keep the focus on great companies like Provide and Unibright and SAP and Microsoft and Ernst & Young and all the others that are building products that happen to use the baseline technique. But as a point of order, you can capitalize baseline protocol. Typically shouldn't capitalize the word baseline to refer to this thing. It's baseline is a term of art. It's you're baselining something. Baseline, send me that purchase order and make sure to baseline it so that we know we both have the same thing. Right.
I think the exception to that rule, John, might be when as a service come after it, and there's this rule where you have to capitalize.
I don't have a problem with that. It sounds good. And it's clean and people get it. But I think it's worth going on the record and saying that's an important thing. Names are important. There's lots of names in baselining, and Anais and team are doing a great job making sure that everybody knows what the words inside that protocol mean, and that we have a common frame of reference for that.
Oh, yes, totally. So we're baselined on that, but just to give a short comment on that, it's actually really you can see if you talk to potential clients or also developers that want to be part of the open source community or partners that we from Provide and Unibright talk with, they really use baseline exactly in the sense that you mentioned. Nobody is currently referring to, oh, how much does baseline cost? If at all, they ask, how much does baselining cost if I use your products? So I think, I know that's one of your favorite subjects, John, to mention it.
I'm just seeing in the chat, there's already people going, how much is the baseline token? I'm like, dude, no.
Yeah, okay.
No baseline token.
There's always that, but I think everybody around the community already did and currently does a very good job with explaining that baseline is a technique, but every technique is only valuable if you can somehow use the technique. And so that's what the as the service idea refers to. And everybody is open to contribute or to build own products as well. The idea of this demo day is also to show how it looks from a product perspective, like we at Provide and Unibright tackle it.
Yeah, no, you guys are doing great. And baseline as a service works fine.
Yes,
just want to bring that up in terms of standards.
Yeah, and ultimately, from a standard point of view, once this will be approved and published officially, what will really matter is baseline compliance. So is your product baseline compliant? So I think it will clear immediately the air and see what is compliant, what is not. Everything will be just set aside automatically. And that's the value of having a standard as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think standards are so interesting, especially, and terminology from a journalist perspective. It's like, is this a technique? Is this a service? And I think that there's a lot of confusion out there still, because I mean, even the other day I was writing an article about baseline protocol. I asked John, hey, does it sound okay to say technique or techniques? Because we've really got to get this clarified for the broader community. And so I think standards are so important, and we could probably talk for the next hour about it and about compliance, because that's so important, especially in the enterprise blockchain space.
And technique and techniques both are correct. I think Kyle or somebody said, it is a design pattern. So there are a set of techniques, and it is a technique for combining those techniques.
That's right. That's
right.
Well said. Yeah, and you're right. Enterprises, won't go all in on it until there's standards around it. So.
Yeah, and if we have a look in like 2 or 3 years from now, there are so many protocols out there that are just used like on a daily basis. But of course, now let's take an internet browser. You're not talking about the protocol level more. It's more like, oh, which browser do you use? And this is also a sign that there has been some standardization and specification on a protocol level, so that actually in some time you don't have to talk about the protocol anymore. As excited we are about this today, the goal of all of us is to make the protocol level disappear, or being a little bit less visible and less problematic, because we just use it and it's great and it brings us benefit or a higher return on invest or whatever. That's why we're here.
Right. Anais, we are running low on time for the fireside chat. Did you want to just add any additional comments before we sign off?
Yeah, I would definitely like to say that in 2021, I hope we see more engagement with traditional enterprise IT folks from different providers of business systems, ERP CRMs, but also with business stakeholders such as process operation executives and, of course, finance and procurement executive. I think the focus, and this is demonstrated today with this event, is that we need to invest in developing even further our relationship with all actors of the baseline ecosystem. So what Provides and Unibright started doing this year, I hope to see more of it next year.
Well, you're going to see it from us, at least. There's no doubt.
I trust that I will.
Awesome. Thank you, Anais. So Stefan and Kyle, what panel should we head to next?
Let's see. I don't have a preference.
Standards is nothing without individuals or teams contributing to the protocol. So perhaps I would head over to the contributors panel with, I think Ognian is on it and Myron is on it. Tomasz, take it from there.
Right. The panel, how to contribute to the open source baseline protocol. Yeah, that's a great panel to follow what we just discussed.
I have to say goodbye, if I may interrupt you. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Stefan, for joining.
Bye, Stefan. Thank you.
Coming. See you, man.
Okay, great. So let's head over to the how to contribute to the open source baseline protocol panel. We won't go into introductions because everyone's already been introduced. So I'm just going to jump into the first question for the panelists. So all of you contribute to the baseline protocol. What is your main driver in supporting this open source initiative?
Anyone can start. Maybe. Sorry, please continue. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I mean, this has been said before. So it's the recognition that the baseline protocol solves a real world problem where organizations, companies, and the public sector spend a lot of money struggling with inter-organizational process automation and process integration. So my main motivation when discovering back in July now, was like, wow, this could make a real difference if done correctly. So where can I basically use my experience and my skills to contribute? And I think any contributor, then I invite anybody with their variety of skills and experience to come and contribute when they recognize that the baseline protocol does make a difference in the business operations, basically operations management overall.
Exactly. If I can add to that just quickly, so that our motivation for contributing is that baseline is really solving the specific use cases that are otherwise quite hard to solve. If I can just jump into details a little bit, a concrete use case, for example, in the factoring business, is that there is this kind of fraud where a person could try to have a factoring, an invoice financed in multiple companies. And their baseline, which can introduce that you have a shared system of record or a shared state between system of records without exposing the secrets of the business, is a perfect use case to solve that issue. So we want to contribute in order to have a solution that could help in our domain.
Right. I think that, you both make a very, very good point, especially the whole real world use case, because the enterprise blockchain use cases that are focused on real world problems today are the ones that are really, really particularly interesting. It's like we need these solutions now. And the way that, for instance, what Kona is doing with baseline, it's really interesting how they're synchronizing data and doing that for supply chain management. So that was a really good point. If other interested parties wanted to get involved and engage in this, how can they do so? Is it only about coding software in terms of contributing, or are there other ways to be involved here?
Definitely not coding software only, because the Baseline Protocol Initiative is a standard initiative. I cannot emphasize this enough. So under Oasis, there is a contributor license agreement that will need to be signed. as part of the process, but whoever is interested should definitely come and join us on Slack. And yes, we are a very open team, so just ask for help and we will guide you through the right steps in starting your contribution.
And perhaps as we have Myron on the call, I want to emphasize on that there are really like hybrid models of contributors, because Myron is working for Fraunhofer IPK. At the same time, he's working on a master thesis, including baselining technique. And at the same time, he's coding for on product level and on protocol level. So perhaps Myron, you can tell us how that feels working in 7 roles at a time with baseline.
Working on all ends. Started by the Fraunhofer IPK prototype based on Hyperledger Fabric, and we came across about the public blockchain approach. And from an educational point of view, the baseline protocol is combining so much, a lot of concepts from scaling, from privacy. It's even an educational interest in taking part in the baseline protocol. And as you already mentioned, writing my master thesis in combination with the collaboration from Fraunhofer APK and the Provide and Unibride work, it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of fun, and it starts from just looking up issues in the code repo, and before even looking at the code base. When I remember I saw the repo, I just looked into the issues and the tasks before looking into the code base, and I thought about how can I get involved. How can I get involved in the baseline protocol, even not knowing about the concepts or the code itself, and then looking into the code where I can make some action, where is a good way to integrate my knowledge from university and from the Fraunhofer IPK, as well as their production systems. And yeah, that's mainly it.
Perfect.
Myron, that's interesting. Can you just elaborate a little bit on that? Because I'm sure other people want to get involved. Like, what was the process like for you? Was it easy to, become involved with this, or did you find it challenging?
Yeah, it was easy. I found, as I mentioned before, even looking into the code base or the documentation, I just scrolled down the issues and the repo and just looked up what can be done, and then I looked into the code base and I thought, well, while learning about the concepts and the code, how is everything working, where I can take action. And with the work at the Fraunhofer APK and with the collaboration with Unibride and Provide, it helped me a lot to understand all the concepts from privacy, from zero knowledge proofs, to messaging, decentralized messaging, and it's a lot of fun while working on those projects.
Yeah, and perhaps it would be interesting to also get Tomasz' perspective, because this hybrid role, it happens quite often in the baseline environment. And Tomasz, I mean, it's comparable with Unibride. You also have your own commercial product line, and at the same time, you have to understand or even work on protocol level to make it all work. So perhaps you can share a little bit about your perspective on this.
I think it's great to look at baseline as exactly this, as a kind of standard that allows even people starting their careers in enterprise IT, students or people who experiment with technology, just to connect and start building their own tools, their own products on top of it. So for when you think about big enterprises, they'll want to have some established products, and these products is partially what Unibride Provide and Nanamind deliver now, but also something that will be growing all around with the people just adding more and more tools for the enterprises. And with Nanamind, it's all about giving the same simplicity for enterprise users, onboarding everything, as for the users that we see now just installing Nethermind for the first time to launch their support for Ethereum 2 as the Ethereum 1 source of data. They just launched it. They started a week ago, just downloaded docs and installed, launched. It works. And this is probably what we want to see the enterprises doing. They all were waiting for the mainnet to be ready for what they wanted to do on blockchain, because private was for them a testing ground, like some consortium network, but everyone wanted to move to mainnet. And it's amazing that Baseline provides that, delivers that and promised. And with Nethermind, I hope that enterprises will have not only simplicity, but also a tool that they can expand. So he delivers something that can be with plugins, with the technology that they often know and like, .NET framework, .NET Core. So yeah, I think this is great to be part of it.
Right.
Yeah, I've seen that plugin architecture come so far in such a short period of time. It's really nice.
Tomas, I just wanted to, because this is, I recently wrote yesterday about the commitment manager, and I know Nethermind played a pretty big role with that. So, I mean, that's just, it's a perfect example, I think, just how everyone's helping one another. I don't know if you want to elaborate on that, but that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, the commitment manager is great for coming from other players to onboard all the Ethereum clients, and like you have different approaches, and I think this is part of Baseline, right? So you can have different approaches, and the approaches that are very open to everyone start building their tools, their solutions. So you can go with Nethermind, everything together built in, and build also with Provide and with Unibright's tools to have this single-click experience, and you have Baseline in your enterprise. Or you can go also the other ways and start using different tools to fill this open source field that anyone can join, that anyone can build things. You can use any of the mainnet Ethereum clients, because if you at any point you think, oh, this is mainnet, but you are forced to use particular tooling, then it's not really open source blockchain field mainnet. If you can use any tool that is known and that is used for mainnet, then it really is that decentralized solution. Sure, you will want to very often use for this enterprise level support, enterprise level tooling, but you should always be able to pick your own path. And yeah, what was delivered to Commitment Manager, it's great to see that happening.
Well, Ognian, just one also to remind that we're on a demo day here. Also talking about hybrid roles. Ognian and team have been working with Unibright for years now, even before there was a Between as a startup. So how do you feel in that hybrid role of playing your own or driving your own innovation and your tech stack, at the same time providing to a protocol and taking care about the integration? How is this all playing together?
Oh, it's interesting. It feels like you have schizophrenia at some point. I'm just joking. I mean, the community around the Baseline is really committed. So once you jump in to contribute something, they just don't want you to let you go, and they really push you to get the best out of you as possible. And it's quite helpful actually doing business that can benefit from something like the Baseline technique or the protocol, and working on the protocol at the same time, because I can use the synergy between the real use cases and problems and try to implement and push that forward in the protocol. So in that sense, it's quite interesting. The other thing is that since the protocol is so new, there is so much different things that you can do. So from coding to preparing conferences to working on the standards and designing the future of the protocol. So it's really fun and interesting.
Yes, and just to remind people that the pre-produced content on the landing page is, of course, also showing details from, for example, the Between case. But I just want to jump into one detail that I find pretty interesting in the Between tokenization case, because this whole thing and also your business idea would have made sense if we just if you just keep baselining to other parties and you just start your process after something has been successfully baseline. So in this case, it's about adding value to a process and a document flow that ends with a tokenized, with a baseline invoice that then can be tokenized and used in like a factoring environment. So this is what I find so interesting, that your business case would even work without you contributing to baseline. You could just take the end result and place your business model on top, and still it's about integrating all these steps.
Yeah, exactly. The thing you mentioned, the baseline provides this aggregation of value as the steps move forward in the workflow or even between multiple work groups. So in that sense, you can just add your additional specific business value to something that was already generated, and by that increase the overall value of the transaction and monetize in the end.
Yeah, so please make sure to check out the demo videos that we pre-produced on the landing page. And it will also be interesting to show, of course, all the ongoing process of these demos in next year, especially with the tokenization cases, because they can actually be applied on all baseline services before. So yeah, interesting stuff.
Great, wonderful. We have just maybe a minute or so left. Does anybody want to add any additional comments about open source baseline protocol?
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, my personal open source experience hasn't been so big before baseline. Coming from a .NET Windows world, open source was not the major topic. So I would be interested in how open source experienced and educated the actual contributor panel is, and if and how baseline feels from an open source perspective. Right.
Wonderful. Okay. So which panel should we head to next? Should we talk about enterprise blockchain?
Yeah, I think we can open this panel now to all the participants that are giving their valuable time and have the enterprise blockchain in general topics and questions going out to all panelists to get as much impressions as possible.
Perfect. Okay, great. So let's talk about enterprise blockchain in general. So the first question is, baseline protocol is now almost 1 year old. So what's the greatest thing about it that we've seen so far, and what is the ultimate goal behind it?
Yeah, I mean, the greatest thing so far, if I may start, for me personally, it's the adoption we see from companies, from customers we had before, from new customers joining, asking for baselining, seeing some perspective to really make use of all this blockchain and DLT promises, so that we now have a setup. We have the product setup, but we have the baseline protocol specification as well, that we have an outline of how we can put all of this together and show companies how to make use of blockchain in their enterprise business processes. And this seems to be working as we see the demand picking up. So that's the great motivating thing for me personally.
Yeah, just want to add on to that and saying, where we were a year ago, we started out with Radish 34, and then we moved on now to BRI1, and now we see BRI2 that I know was just discussed as well. And just from a community perspective, it's just amazing to see a concept that started out as a thought to something on paper, to something then that works, to something that, you can go ahead and see some of these reference implementations in action and actually go and check on any of the block explorers and actually see the deployment of these contracts and the interaction with them. I mean, the proof is there, no pun intended.
So
pun was there though.
Yeah, Daniel skipped all the parts where things didn't work, but we can open another panel.
We could talk about that one off chain.
So something that I think is really interesting about all of this is enterprise DeFi. And I think that's one of the end goals here. Correct me if I'm wrong, but can someone explain what enterprise DeFi actually means in this case and what's achieved here? Because as a journalist, like enterprise DeFi, how do we define that? It's such a new term, but I think what the baseline protocol is bringing is an actual use case of enterprise DeFi.
Yeah, perhaps we can put it in a way that enterprise DeFi is one of the topics or one of the things that actually are possible because there is a baselining technique in place. Because then you can, it's actually exactly what we discussed with Ognian before. Blockchain-based factoring, for example, is way more valuable and also easier to convince participants to be part of a process if you rely on a common state of a process that is somehow trusted by all participants, that has standards in place, that is integrated well, so it actually covers all this. And then enterprise DeFi is just again a technique of techniques that you can enable on top of a tokenized asset, like we also at Unibright showed within Unibright Frequency or whatever vendor is out there. So in that case, I think the distinction between DeFi and enterprise DeFi is mostly that it's DeFi concepts building upon some business objects that have reached a common level of trust.
Well, I think that DeFi is really democratizing access to investment, right? In terms of where anyone can come and invest in any amount of money to participate in that way. And I think enterprise DeFi is where when you see Kona, for example, at the end of the day, the end goal is to streamline their business process, sure, but absolutely to enable these tokenization of assets. And then when you'll see enterprise DeFi and DeFi become bridged, and then we'll know that it's come full circle.
Yeah, but I somehow like Stefan's definition, like enterprise DeFi being something that starts in a, let's say, ERP system, an off-chain system, and then transports into a tokenized representation, and then we have this financial transactions running on a blockchain, and then we somehow perhaps go back to the off-chain system.
I'm sorry. Well, absolutely, that's enterprise DeFi. But what I'm trying to say is that that DeFi itself, will grow, and this democratization of access, I think, to investment will explode as a result of these big brands practicing enterprise DeFi.
Yeah.
Ognian, is your factoring case actually
does anything?
Sorry,
Stefan, you were saying.
Yeah, sorry, I just lost connection, I guess. I just wanted to ask if your between case is actually an example for bridging enterprise DeFi and DeFi, because also the end consumer will be part in a factoring process, or how does your business model look like?
Yes, exactly. It goes in the direction what Kyle said of democratizing access to investment, where you can tokenize the invoices and then enable for the public to join into the factoring process to invest into invoices. And what's interesting there about Baseline is that you can imagine having a regulatory body that would create a work group which all factoring companies, for example, access, and then just participating in a Baseline work group like that is proof to the end investor that this business is sound and that this token that is going to be invested in is sound. It's following a set of regulations provided by the regulatory body and so on. So in that sense, it is really using the blockchain what was originally intended to provide a kind of trustless interaction between the end investor and the company, just by participating in a protocol together. Let's say it like that.
Yep.
Perfect.
I'm wondering, is Ethereum 2.0 going to play any role with all of this?
Well, that's a loaded question if I've ever heard one. Yes, I'd say hopefully so. It's going to take a little time for it to get there, and so we have to come up with ways to do this now, right? Because enterprises want this now. and it's possible right now. And I think there's some really interesting stuff coming up soon where we'll be able to say, look, like you use this network for these kinds of transactions, and you use this network for this DeFi kind of transaction, and together these two networks represent a true enterprise mainnet. So I think ETH2 will absolutely play a role and be one of the networks. But when will that happen? And you have to really, architect for the future, but also the present.
Yeah.
Right. In terms of the most important things to work on with baseline protocol, specifically in general towards broader enterprise blockchain adoption, what are those things that should be worked on right now?
Yeah, perhaps I can add one huge thing we see. I mean, adding to what Kyle said already, the whole discussion about the right mainnet. I mean, it's written down in the specification of the baseline protocol as well. There are ideas on what a mainnet, what things it has to cover. But of course, ETH2, for example, as we just discussed, is a great thing to come, but mainly it focuses on the performance side of things. So when I have Andre from Kona, Andre's words in my ear, he's talking about things like costs. So what will it cost to have a DeFi or a baseline process in a productive usage? Customers asking for costs. So we have to look at what does a mainnet cost? What does a transaction cost? Or we have to look at aspects like data privacy. Can we give an answer on the question of how is data handled in a specific blockchain? Where are the nodes hosted? All these questions arise, and we see them arise now with customers moving from POC phase to productive usage. Now we have data compliance officers asking all these funny questions like, what's about data protection or performance and costs? We had these two, and the questions about we need business add-ins like how can we support things like phone books for finding our business partners. These are things that all connect to the question of what is the right mainnet. So I think this is a very, very vital point to look at next year and all the time after, because for companies, it's very, very vital to understand what the mainnet means for them.
And I think to add to that, I think it's a really elegant way of placing, like in the current official docs of Baseline, placing the term mainnet to not confuse it with a specific implementation, because Ethereum, of course, currently is hosting most of the POCs and demos. And of course, if you talk about DeFi or cryptocurrencies that come at a later stage of a baseline process, then it's perhaps also a very good choice. But there should be a specification and an integration on a level where you rather define the mainnet also on protocol level. What should a mainnet serve for to best possibly support a baseline process? And perhaps to give an example on what Martin just said, of course, baseline as a technique already solves a lot of things in terms of privacy and how the blockchain is used in a process by storing proofs. But still, there are perhaps compliance requests that even if it's just a proof that you save from your company, perhaps you have the request from a compliance officer to remove that proof at a certain point. You want to have the right to delete your data, so to say. And even if it's not clear data anymore that we put on a blockchain, like in a distributed database times, it's still data we put on there. So all these data governance and compliance rules still apply. Perhaps they're easier to tackle, but it will be a very interesting challenge for, I mean, basically, I think Martin and Kyle, you would agree, that's one of our main challenges for next year, to really get that POC phase into a productive phase and to see and help how the mainnet or the mainnets actually play into that.
Yeah.
So I will definitely agree that in 2021, there will be a focus on the mainnet, a mainnet specification. So it is not because we are focusing on the standards that other specification will not emerge from the baseline protocol initiative. And this could well include how to tokenize baseline record. We could have a specification for this. Why not? In the same way, there is a need to have a mainnet specification to understand what are the good attributes of a mainnet, what are the technical requirements, but also the governance requirements for a mainnet to be eligible or to be a good candidate to be a public mainnet common frame of reference of baseline processes. So I'm definitely happy that we're having this conversation now. And that's something that we have started putting like the building block, what could be the right approach to define such a mainnet. And yeah, so it's great that this is being taken into consideration.
Yeah, it's a good conversation.
I was just going to say that's a really good point. And I'm curious because, you know, when we had been thinking about enterprise blockchain, a lot of it was private networks. What are customers saying when they hear Ethereum, when they hear public? Does that scare them?
Well, so I mean, Andre is like, you know, how do we pay for this thing? So that's a great, you know, that's a great sign. He also says, you know, if we want to keep data internally, then we'll use a database, and if we want to, you know, talk to external parties, then we will use a public blockchain if it's safe. How do we pay for it? You know, Kona's a great case because of how much they knew coming into baseline, I think. So. There's a lot to be said for that, but that's sort of what we're hearing, right?
Yes, but I would say that what Andres and Kona, they were already very open to innovation.
Exactly.
I think next year we really have to focus on traditional business stakeholders and enterprise architect, business architect, who have been focusing on improving processes within a company and expanding and having this conversation with them about now we can optimize and improve your processes across your supply chain or your procurement to pay process. And we will only have like serious adoption when we are able to engage not only with the innovation director profiles, while they already have this appetite to try new technology, to take risk on new proof of concept, but with the more traditional non-innovation stakeholders, because ultimately they all budget also for implementation work. So we need to be able to speak their language and to articulate, to understand their business challenges, and to be able to deliver in a way that they understand, address their concern, and decrease those barriers to adoption from their perspective as well.
Yeah, I think that's where the as a service approach sort of comes in, you know.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of that, you know, in I want to say 2017, 2018, when Envision Blockchain was first talking to enterprise customers, there was almost this stigma of public blockchains. Don't mention it when we reach our point of contact and they introduce us to the leadership or something like that. Please don't mention public blockchains, no cryptocurrency, none of that, right? So it's almost like the way that innovation happens and through just, you know, POCs and different pilots and different adoption that has been publicly made, we're finding that more and more as we get into, you know, 2020, 2021, everyone's okay to talk about public networks and they're okay to say, you know what, let's go ahead and give this a shot. So that's exactly what we're seeing.
May I add to that to say that I think that there is I've got a personal goal that says, 20 marquee companies announcing projects that use the public mainnet in an appropriate, safe, and secure and effective way, and that we all understand what that means in 2021, right? So at least 20 companies. I think that's going to be easily achieved, given what I'm hearing from the community.
Awesome! I can't wait. The future looks bright.
I just want to add one more point to what Anai said before, because I agree with that. that we do not only have to convince the innovation managers, but I think Andre earlier in that panel, he already made the point that from his perspective, it's not about I don't know, telling colleagues about that we used a new fancy technology, but really getting it into production. So perhaps this is some transition from an innovation manager looking into a new technology is innovative, but perhaps into a new technique is the innovation that we're actually talking about, because it somehow, I don't know, saves us costs or makes us more efficient or helps us onboarding new suppliers in an ecosystem like shown in the demo video on the landing page. So all these add to that. Finally, the innovation is not about, hey, we use blockchain, buzz a proof of hype, but rather like, yeah, we use a new technique. There's blockchain involved, but don't care too much. It just brings you benefit 1, benefit 2, benefit 3. And that's what we also want to work on.
And perhaps just to play devil's advocate here, of course, this all brings the hard questions, like companies asking about how much does it cost? And they will do all these models, they will calculate it, and they will ask, what's about the performance side of things? Do we have any guaranteed performance, guaranteed throughput? All these questions will occur completely independent, whether it's blockchain or something else, but this technology will be evaluated, and it has to fit the models. Customers or enterprises evaluate new technology.
Yeah, I think the point is all about success metrics. Are we measuring the delivered value in terms of cost that companies are not spending, or process improvement, speed of the process, and those kind of things. So defining those key success metrics that we're able to see before applying baselining and after baselining our processes.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I just can't wait for the day where blockchain isn't really a term anymore. It's not a loaded hype term, and we're getting there. But it's just like it's there. It's in the IT stack, and it does what it's supposed to do. And we are getting there. We're starting to see less companies throw the term around, and the serious companies that actually find use for it are using it, like Kona for supply chain management. So definitely see progress being made over the years.
Indeed.
Great. Okay, so I think we should move on to our last and final panel given time, which is just kind of closing remarks from Kyle, Martin, and Stefan. What do you guys think?
Yeah, for you guys.
Does anyone have anything else to add before we head into the closing panel?
I think we can just extend this panel to the closing panel and include the very valuable audience here.
Okay, cool. Well, then I'll just go ahead and ask this question then. In terms of, the progress being made with baseline so far, what is your overall attitude and feeling towards that? Just how do you feel about everything so far?
I think for us, just perhaps to start here, it's really interesting that with baseline, many things happened that we have been preaching before. I think this adds to what Daniel said before, like pitching an integration solution that's based on blockchain, coming to the state where you better do not mention blockchain at all, because it will be instantly confused with Bitcoin and everything around that. And you never come to the point of explaining a technology because you're about to defend yourself for things that are going on in the cryptocurrency world. And we're a hybrid because UBT plays a vital role in on how to use our stack. But still, with baseline, we got that pace finally on the road to really talk about the actual business proposal and integration again. So for us, it was a very welcomed accelerator, and that's why we're also so happy to contribute back to the protocol, because we profit from it in terms of our message, and that's why we also want to contribute in the ecosystem so that we can give something back.
But I want to add I think I'm excited about that. It's brought together these different systems of records, so we can have members from SAP, members from Dynamics, members from Salesforce, and can all get around the same idea and reusing the technique, and it's now going to be companies from those various ecosystems can all use the same patterns. And that's exciting because 6-8 months ago that didn't exist, and now here we are. We can actually say going into this next year, there's going to be this kind of uniform way that these different systems are working.
Yeah, I think just making what we've done, provide more and more turnkey is just going to be it's going to be a phenomenal bit of progress over these next 3 to 6 months alone. And the last year has been a lot of work, but man, the results are clear, I think, in terms of the progress. So it's exciting.
In terms of just moving forward, in your opinion, what are the biggest challenges that still need to be overcome in order to drive this forward and get more customers on board for proof of concept?
Well, I think just success metrics. I think we need to just measure the results of these initiatives, and I think that will really drive further interest.
Stefan,
just KPIs, for example, from Kona.
Established KPIs, and also just ongoing costs, like seeing what would be the upfront cost of like a license and months of integration versus an ongoing cost using baseline.
Yep.
Right. And it's also interesting. I'd be curious to hear, just general thoughts from panelists on blockchain and DLT, how it's, in your opinion, impacting enterprises. If we could just briefly talk about that.
Yeah, the funny thing is that the internet will not forget any of the things that we are mentioning now. So it will be really, really interesting to replay this session 1 year from now. As I said before, I think with Baseline, we just got a huge accelerator in terms of showing the use case of blockchain, because there have been a lot of talk about what's the killer use for blockchain. And perhaps it was, I don't know, the first cryptocurrencies, or it was ICOs. I think the killer use case for blockchain is the blockchain, and not the specific use case or one specific industry that can make use of it, or one specific audience, but rather understanding it as what it is, a distributed network that you can build new integration patterns on. And yeah, I personally think I'm very happy that we reached already that part of the storytelling or the explanation, but still it will be very interesting and exciting to look back 1 year from now and see if we're still struggling making the same explanations, or if we can show more use cases, demos, and so on.
Something else that's also important to note is, if you take a look back at the early blockchain, enterprise blockchain implementation days, there was a lot of proof of concepts and pilots around custom application development, where, if you talk to enterprise organizations, really businesses in general, we don't have to just say enterprise, just businesses in general are already using the tools that they're using in order to conduct their business. So, if you were to say, hey, we're going to implement a brand new custom portal or custom this, custom that, there's going to be a little rigor to adoption, where the innovation that baselining is showing is that you can actually keep the systems that you're using and make it easy for users to just continue their day-to-day while still interacting in a way that we don't even have to see the blockchain or enter things into the CLI and all these things. The goal is to make it easy for people to just do what they need to do.
So one thing I just want to ask, because I think this is really important here, is, we're talking about blockchain and businesses using it, but in this specific instance, in terms of Baseline as a service, which customers are the most suitable, which businesses, because obviously not every business is going to need this. And that's really important. What businesses do need this and why? Besides Kona. Or we can talk about Kona and why they need it.
No, I disagree a little bit, because I think every business in 2020 or 2021, it's all about digitalization and bringing tech stacks together. So why not doing this on a common pattern that includes trust on the very basic level of its design already? So my personal opinion is that it's not limited to use cases or to specific industries, but perhaps on cases that need integration. So of course, if you're a very small player that handles to have everything on your own without any supply chain, without any, I don't know, external IT services involved, then you're happy to be in 2020. I don't think that there are many companies left who can claim that for themselves. So I think baselining as a technique and also the baseline as a service products will be interesting for everybody who has to integrate systems with other participants. So everyone.
Yeah, perhaps, yeah, we can say that, or perhaps as soon as you have more than one party in a distributed business process, so 2 or more, then you can have benefit from baselining by having this trust layer that you can just trust by design, which is a clear advantage to the time before. So it's not so much about sectors or industry sectors. I think it's as soon as you have a distributed business process, you can make use of baselining.
Well, one thing that I also wanted to, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I gotta get this one in. I like to think of it the way I experienced it in the 90s, right? You know, you needed a web page. Didn't matter what kind of company you were, what kind of business you were, what industry you were in. Everybody needed a web page, which meant you needed a web server. And then you wanted a spinning logo on the web page. And then you needed a catalog. You wanted your catalog of stuff on the web page. And then ultimately you wanted to be able to let people click a button and pay you for something, and you'd ship it to them. And now we're into e-commerce, right? Sometimes you have specificity. The story is specific, but it's horizontal. You always want to have a specific story. You want people to, like Slack. Slack is horizontal, but everybody knows what it does for you. So you can go horizontal, but you have a nice tight story. Other things, you're in the healthcare sector and you're solving a specific healthcare industry problem. I think the baselining stuff that is implementing the baseline standard will, a lot of it will be more like, it's not e-commerce, maybe it's b-commerce or something, but it's a horizontal thing.
So one point I want to add that I think is pretty interesting about baseline is that smaller companies can utilize this. When we think about or at least when we did think about enterprise blockchain, there are these major players involved. But I think with baseline, it opens up that arena to even the smallest of players. I think that's extremely important here, because enterprise blockchain now isn't just limited to the Walmarts of the world. It's now open. So I don't know if anybody wants to elaborate on that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. I mean, we saw that on a smaller scale with Kona. For them, the main drivers to look into baseline was because now with baseline, they could get their smaller suppliers into their network, because there is this public mainnet that is so easy to join, and the smaller suppliers that are perhaps running Excel or whatever for the daily business, they can just, without a heavy load of setting up a private network nodes, they can join the whole business process.
That's also where we touch the product level again. So from a user experience, of course, then it should be exactly this: clicking a button and having your baseline stack fired up, or baseline as a service stack fired up, to use the baseline technique to baseline your business process. So now I used baseline in just every correct manner 3 times in one sentence. But no, that's actually what it's about. Currently, of course, it's easier to start these implementations with a bigger player, because then integration challenges are well known and have been tackled in several other projects, so you can take these experiences. But in midterm, it should be a one-click experience to join a baseline work group and to be part of a baseline process.
Great. So we have 5 minutes left. I don't know if we want to take a few questions, Stefan, or if we want to just finish with some final comments from the panelists. What do you think?
Yeah, perhaps I want as one comment, because I'm also reading the messages. It's very encouraging that many comments are okay, but now show me where I can click and baseline myself. So there's really excitement out there how to do this, and just this demo day is just for us. It's just a starting point. I mean, it's we launched the demo day landing page 2 days ago, filling it with pre-produced content until now. This panel is thought to be a discussion to put it all in context, but it will not stop here. Of course, the content will remain online, and we want to add all the cases that we're working on, also later stages of the current cases. So it's just the start of not only talking about baseline on a protocol level, but really on the real world level. So yeah, it's just starting, and I only can motivate participants of this panel or people that are interested in baselining to stay tuned on all the exciting things that will come next year as well.
Yeah, I'll say that we're seeing a lot of increased engagement from the community, just reaching out to use what we're building, and so I would welcome everyone to reach out. So enough people have been reaching out that we're setting up our own community page right now, like community forums, so that we can sort of organize around this effort and start working more closely together with the community. So I would invite everyone to join that and stay tuned for where you can do that.
Wonderful. Does anybody else have any final comments that they want to add before we end? Or do we have any? I see that there's a question for Andre, but he's not here anymore. So
no, but he tackled that, I guess, in the.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say we're good.
Okay.
One of the goals was also to not have it too long, because people can actually watch 2 hours. We will also make it available online as a summary after this demo day, most probably beginning of next week. So just stay tuned.
Make sure to check out all the content on the YouTube channel. There's a significant amount.
Yeah.
So thanks a lot.
Stefan and Kyle, before we end, how can interested people contact you guys if they have more questions? I mean, obviously social media is one way, if you want to say the Twitter handles, but are there other ways?
Yeah, you could do Twitter at KyleBT. You could join us in Slack. There we will announce the community page, community.provide.services. I would say that it's not quite launched yet. So
yeah. So currently the easiest way is go via provide.services or unibright.io and check out the contact possibilities for there. We are online like 20 hours a day anyway, so we don't make a difference if you contact us by mail or by Slack or via the community on social media. We make sure to get you baselined.
We will baseline you.
Awesome. Wonderful. And if anybody wants to be in touch with me, I'm Rachel Wolf00 on Twitter. And yeah, I'm just so excited for Baseline as a Service and what Provide and Unibright is doing. It's been a real honor to host this event, and I hope we can do more. And, you know, as a journalist, I just think this is one of the most exciting projects I've seen in a while. So this is really, really exciting. I'm glad I had the chance to speak with everyone today, and the panelists have been great. So
thanks, Rachel. Thanks for being here.
Rachel.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Cool.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Cheers.
Thanks,
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.